never lost Charlie.
What are all these fucking legs doing here? Hey guys, Borside here. So recently I took part in the open beta for Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, and I must say that it was love at first sight. I finally have an asymmetrical tactical first-person shooter set in Vietnam. I can't tell you how long I have waited for this. So now Rising Storm 2 is being developed by Antimatter Games and Tripwire Interactive, and is a direct sequel to Rising Storm, which was released in 2013. Now, before I begin my quick review, I would just like to commend this game based solely on the fact that not a moment went by in it that I wasn't fully engrossed. Be it scanning the dense jungle for approaching US troops or attacking a contested flag, the danger was ever present and very real. Like as in taking one round to your head or heart kills you sort of real. And despite there being only one unpopulated server in South Africa to play on, I actually didn't have any problems at all playing with a ping of over 200 milliseconds on European servers. This game has really impressed me. Anyways, let's get on with it. Now, right off the bat, it's clear as day that this game favors actual gameplay mechanics over aesthetics, which I think most serious players would actually prefer. Now don't get me wrong, there are some scenes that look amazing, however for the most part the graphics do look rather dated. Now I know that graphical fidelity counts significantly, but honestly speaking it doesn't bother me at all, besides for the annoying stuttering that is. Now the gameplay is solid, but yeah, if you judge a game based solely on its graphical fidelity, then this game is not for you. Now, the movement felt very clunky and sluggish, however the options that you are provided and the implications thereof make it semi-realistic and satisfying. I mean, for example, if you sprint for an extended period, this will increase your weapon sway, which will thus result in a lot of missed shots if you have to quickly stop and engage a target, that is. And just like a lot of games out there, if you crouch, your aim will improve, however your movement speed will be reduced. Now I also noticed quite a nice feature, and that is you can actually run whilst in the crouched position. That really helps a lot when you got to move from cover to cover quickly whilst reducing your visibility to the enemy. After all, a smaller target is a harder target to hit. Now, combat wise, this is where the game really shines. It is intense and unforgiving, so it generally takes between 1 or 2 rounds to drop somebody, and if you manage to survive being shot, you will have to quickly bandage your wounds to stop yourself from bleeding out and dying. I loved how I always had to be aware of what firing mode my weapon was in, as switching back and forth between firing modes is essential when engaging ranged and close targets. Obviously you wouldn't engage ranged targets in full auto, as the recoil would cause you to miss a lot of your shots. Conversely, it's a breeze whacking down targets in single fire mode at range with an AK. Just make sure that you switch back to full auto when you approach a confined space where there is likely to be close quarters engagements. Nothing is worse than forgetting to switch back when you really need to. Otherwise it feels pretty rock solid with a decent amount of weapons as well. Now the sound design. Initially I was worried about this. I had heard a lot of talk about how weak the weapon sound design is. Thankfully I was pleasantly surprised. It's actually very good in my opinion, and when shit goes down you honestly feel it. There were so many times when loud ass bombs exploded near me or having bullets whiz past me that I couldn't help but feel engrossed and somewhat disorientated at the same time. Something very cool that I noticed as well was that the helicopters sometimes play music that you can hear when the enemy touches down near your location. I didn't hear it often, but whenever I did, I was simply amazed by the attention to detail that these developers have actually put into this title. I did have a minor issue with the VoIP being lower than the in-game volume, but luckily it took less than a minute to resolve within the audio settings menu. But overall, I really think that the developers have done an amazing job here. Now, the class roles. There are a good few classes to choose from, which keeps things interesting and nice and varied. However, I must mention that I'm so fucking thankful to see that the classes here have player restrictions. So you won't land up having half of your team comprised of damn snipers. Each class has a specific role, so don't choose a class if you don't intend to play its role correctly. as in don't take the radio man role if you're not going to stick with your commander to help him out. There are 3 game modes, that's Skirmish, Supremacy and Territory. The Skirmish game mode is a smaller scaled game mode which simulates the exchange of small firefights. The goal of Skirmish is to eliminate every member of the enemy's team after depleting their reinforcement timer, and the reinforcement timer is depicted as 2 bars at the top center of the tactical HUD. Now these bars will slowly drain over time from the original count of 2 minutes, so in order for dead players to continue respawning, their living teammates must continue to capture objectives, which will then add an additional 45 seconds onto the team's reinforcement timer. Now since there are no reinforcements in the way that they exist in other game modes, players are represented as icons beneath their team's reinforcement timer bar in the tactical HUD. Anytime a player is eliminated, corresponding player icon is crossed out, otherwise uncrossed if a player is alive or respawns. Now players will continue to respawn until their team's reinforcement timer runs out, and should a team exhaust their timer, they become susceptible to defeat. Now the Supremacy game mode is designed to reflect the lack of clear front lines that was characteristic of rural fighting in the Vietnam War. Due to the increased mobility allowed by American helicopters or by the North Vietnamese knowledge of the area, objectives cannot be considered entirely safe from assault and so do not lock when captured. Thus, both teams can attack and defend simultaneously, and the victory conditions are not as simple as in territories. A feature specific to Supremacy is that objectives only produce points for the team that controls them, and only if they are connected to the team's home base. The goal of Supremacy is to completely drain the enemy's points earned from captured objectives, oftentimes done by cutting off said objectives. If isolated, they contribute nothing to the team until reconnected. Further, should the enemy lose their home base, they won't gain any points until it's recaptured, regardless of how many other points they control. I could best describe this as the chain link game mode from Battlefield 4. And lastly, there is the territory mode. Now the goal here being for the attacking team to capture all of the defending team's objectives before the round timer runs out. And if they do so, they win immediately upon capturing the last objective. Now the defending team wins by holding at least one objective until the round timer runs out. This is pretty much the rush game mode from the Battlefield franchise as well, and fuck, I love it, okay? Well guys, that's all for my brief review, as I'll be doing a full review when the game releases on the 30th of May, and I don't want to actually go into too much detail here. Anyways guys, I would like to know what you think of the open beta. Did you love it or did you hate it? And if so, what would you change? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you liked my video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see future content. Anyways guys, until next time, take care of yourselves and have a chilled one.